So for the last few days, I've been talking about escape and the Martini principle, mixing my metaphors slightly. And I've had some feedback that the videos where I'm talking with the phone close up to my face aren't terrifically successful. So I thought I'd just film Thessaloniki a bit. That's Thessaloniki. And talk. Yes, so basically the idea for this chapter is that software needs to escape, or you need, as a project manager, for software to escape in order to find out all of the things that are going to stop you from letting the software escape, but also in order to put the software actually in the hands of users so that they can realize its value. That's the basic thing. And also when you do that, when you put the software in the hands of users and they start to realize its value, then they'll surprise you. So that's the basic dynamic of why you need to let software escape. There are some interesting things about it. One is that nearly everybody will try and tell you that you shouldn't release the software now. So in the last couple of days I've talked about, people jumping out from behind trees, regulators, all sorts of people who have kind of interests in non-functional requirements, etc., jumping out from behind trees and saying you can't release the software yet. And that's maybe understandable, but one of the things that's like even maybe more peculiar is people who are notionally the people who really want the software, like the people who had the initial idea or got the idea funded. Your clients, very often they're not particularly enthusiastic about the idea of actually releasing the software. And you might wonder, well, why is that? And there are a couple of reasons. They're kind of connected, but basically, once you've released the software and you've connected to customers, the power dynamic of the project is completely different. Because if you connect with the customers, the actual people who are actually going to use this, and then they really like it, then the demand, basically the whole project has shifted from push from kind of a client who got funding for this project and then brought you on to do it, to pull from the actual customers, the people who actually want to use it. So the dynamic of the project's completely shifted. That's if things are a success. And so you put this software in the hands of users and they have a bunch of criticisms and they say, well, why doesn't it do this? Why doesn't it do that? Why is this missing? When on earth is this going to be ready, etc.? But still, that's kind of pull. But the other thing that, of course, might happen if you actually put the software in the hands of users is that they might not want it at all. They might hate it. They might not be interested. They might be met with utter indifference. And so the people who had the initial idea for the project, who got the project funded, who've been kind of giving you a hard time for not releasing software very often or not moving faster, once you have released software, if that software isn't popular and it just basically reveals that the idea is a terrible idea, then again there's been a power shift. So lots of people who are actually connected with the project, who are the people who might say that they want the software released, or certainly might say that they want the product to be finished, they might resist actually you trying to release the software. But there are other people as well who might resist you launching the software or trying to put the software into the hands of users. And one group of those people is users. They might say, we're not terrifically interested in this until it's ready, until it's all finished. My experience is that they only say that before you actually put working software in their hands. One of the things that I talk about in this chapter is a quote from Arthur C. Clarke, who says that sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And that's something that's quite important to understand, is that working software is magical. Just think about how we've been entranced in our lives by working software in every direction. Working software is magical, and a crucially important thing to understand is that people understand working software, they react to it, they respond to it in a completely different way than how they understand, react and respond to a list of features or a bunch of designs. Once you can interact with something, then your response to it is completely different. And so this is like, there's powerful magic here at play. That's why when you do this, some people are going to be very reluctant to let you do it, because they don't want that. They don't want this kind of magic to remove power from them. They've been in a kind of reasonably comfortable position of possibly, if they're the client, saying, is it done yet? Is it done yet? Is it done yet? I'm very disappointed that it isn't done yet. For users, I think basically the reason they say, well, I don't want to see it until it's done, is that they realize that once they start using it, they'll be in a different kind of negotiation, and they'll have to think, they'll have to kind of put in actual effort to understand how to use this new thing. And so there's an instinctive kind of desire to kind of avoid, maybe they've been using an old system, they got very familiar with it, maybe they've developed like kind of kudos from being the people who understand the old system. And so when the new system comes in, there is kind of there's a shift of power, so that people might not want to they might not want to kind of move to the new system. They might not want to have you put this new software in their hands. And then there's another group of people who I wish this weren't the case, but it is the case, also aren't that charmed at the idea of like putting out working software, and that's developers. Not all developers, but some developers. Often the thing that you get from developers is, it's not ready yet, can we just wait a bit, can we wait until it doesn't make sense as it is, can we add all this other stuff in? And so what you're doing really, if you're a project manager, and I was thinking like, what do I want you to know, what do I want you to feel if you're a project manager? What you're doing as a project manager is you're trying to gently push software as near to live as possible. And one of the things that kind of I realized when I was writing this in the book is that there's often this discussion about velocity. And I think like velocity is possibly one of the most dangerous and misunderstood concepts that you could possibly like advance in software development. And very often what kind of clients mean when they talk about velocity, and this is kind of accepted by development teams, is increasing functionality. But the interesting thing about velocity is speed in a bunch of different directions. So speed is just in one direction, velocity is speed in a bunch of different directions. And part of what you're trying to do by getting your software out into the world is you're trying to achieve movement in a bunch of directions other than just in functionality. So you're trying to get this nearer to a live environment. You might start off with dummy data, and then you want to start using real data, and then maybe you want to start using real data in anger, so it's data that's actually stored and it's private, etc. You want to start off using test servers, obviously, and then you want to move on to production servers. And all of those movements away from a kind of archetypal, it works on my machine prototype, make this software more likely to actually be a success. And the answer is, well, when do you want to do these? It's probably like, at the right time, but as soon as you can, after the right time or on the right time, you want to be trying to move in all these different directions. So, yes, trying to help software escape is very important. And what I want you to know, if you're a project manager, is you need to be trying to do this. You need to be trying to get the software to move in all of these different dimensions, move in all these different directions. And almost nobody will want you to do that. That's what I want you to know. And what do I want you to feel about this? I think the thing that I find it hardest to feel is sympathy and understanding for the people who are trying to slow the project down and stop software being released. But I think if you talk it through, you start to understand why people might not want to actually have new software released. But what I also want you to feel is it's absolutely okay to carry on and keep pushing for software to be released and software to work, because that is the best way of making the project, giving the project the best chance of success.